This is GRPJ. It's a new show where I play JRPG and then talk about it. Why GRPJ? Well, as an adult, I don't have time to play JRPGs as I can because I can't play them because they're too long. They take too many hours out of my time of the day. And I want to experience the classics because I never experienced Kingdom Hearts and most of the Final Fantasy series I have no idea about. And there's a Chrono Trigger and Secret of Mana and Paper Mario and so many others that I just don't have the time to enjoy. So I thought I need a reason. This show is where I'm going to play a JRPG off screen and then talk about it on screen, and therefore being a good reason to play JRPG. That's the reason for the title, and now you get it as well. Me too, I get it too. Let's play the first one, Final Fantasy VII. Here it is, in my green screen I put up lavishly. Spoiler warning from the future. This is from a later part in the video in which I'm realizing I'm spoiling. Part 1, the opening. I like the opening. The opening is very cool. It's very action-packed and good at like getting all the lore in there that you need, like the characters' names, what they're doing, why they're doing it, things about like the materia, where they are, who's the bad guy, why you're fighting them, and it's all very fast-paced and quick and stuff. It's sort of what did I say? It was like a like a thrilling timed escape, like from Metroid, but right at the beginning. You know when you blow up the planet and in Metroid, you run away with the alarms and stuff, and it's like and this is like that. It's like you're going through, oh fuck, and at some point you get to the thing, you got to blow it up. There's a timer, you got to run away, and it gets you introduced to all the combat, and it's just a very good introduction to the whole thing. Even though a lot of the game, the vast majority, is not even very similar to that bit, but you know the beginning of the game is like that, and the bare basics of it's a good opening. I like how it's very calm afterwards, after the beginning bit with the boss and the first little boss and the timed explosion and then all that shit, and then you're just like, oh, it really felt like a big movie opener, you know? Oh yeah, I noticed the tutorials, instead of being like some other character coming to you and saying, now Cloud, this is how you jump, or you don't jump, this is how you do all this shit. Instead, it's Cloud who teaches by talking to certain NPCs. Like, you go up to a bunch of them and they're like, blah blah blah, I'm training you or whatever. And then Cloud is the guy who says, what do you want to know about? I'm the coolest kid ever. I'm the best guy. I know everything. Here's a list. And then you can choose them and Cloud will tell the NPC. And that's a cool way of doing the thing. It shows that Cloud is a real cool guy, full of himself a little bit, and thinks he's hot shit when he may not be, but he seems like hot shit so far. Bit too cool, even. Alright, part 2, I guess. I guess part 2 is gonna be, what is it gonna be? The aesthetic. I've color-coded my notes, so I'm just gonna go through and read all the aesthetic-based things in this part about the aesthetic. And for one of them, I for some reason highlighted, fuck this golden wire of hope and the stupid platforming. I guess you might know that bit. It's a bit where you're climbing this raggledy-paggledy bunch of debris, and for some reason it's a platforming segment. It's not really aesthetic though, so let's leave that for now. Let's scroll down here. Oh yes, the background. I noticed instantly that the background is made of 2D pre-rendered stuff. Now, I'm playing the PC Steam version, so I had the opportunity to upgrade the graphics a little bit. There was like a use original graphics mode and a don't do that mode. And I chose the original graphics because I like shitty PlayStation 1 graphics. I legitimately enjoy low poly, low resolution stuff because it just reminds me of that era of games. And I like that. yeah, the backgrounds look very low resolution, but you can still see everything in them, and you walk around, and it's pretty clear where to go. Sometimes you get, my controller wasn't working very well because when I pressed up, he went sort of up left, yes. So it was difficult to get the hang of walking around. I got stuck on a lot of corners, but it really wasn't that very difficult to figure out where to go. You know, the camera is always pointed in a way that makes it obvious what the direction you're going. I mean, sometimes there are points where it's like, do I go left or right or up? I don't know. I don't know what they want me to do. But yeah, that's the backgrounds. I like those. Those are good. A thing about the environment that I do like is that there's not very many things to inspect. It's not like you go into a house and there's like 3 different bookshelves, a sink, a table with a thing on it. You know, you can't walk up to everything and click on it and he won't say anything like, fucking, this is a thing, look, it's a book about nothing. You know, because I don't really like that, and sometimes it's good, but if it's like a thing throughout the whole game, like there's always a house and it always has at least one bookshelf in it, and you always feel the need to go look at the bookshelf, a lot of the times it's just pointlessly, you know, uninteresting stuff. Sometimes it's interesting if it's like a library level, and you're finding like clues or bits of lore or story, but most of the time, like little pointless interact things I don't like, and there's really none of them in this. The only things you can interact with are very obvious: the chests, the things you can pick up, the people, and occasionally a switch. But it's very much there for decoration rather than interactation. Now, even though there are a lot of, I keep doing this with my hands, I feel like I need to do something with them because they're here. The pre-rendered backgrounds, I have mentioned that they're great. I like them. They look very deliberate. Everything is very deliberate in the way that the thing is shot, because it's like it's one composition. Maybe the camera moves a little bit as you walk up the spiral of a staircase or over there of a hill, but it's like a lot of the time you're walking straight and you're sort of just going in this direction. You can't really go left or right. You can't tilt the camera at all because it's a pre-rendered background, and it makes it so that everything can be properly shot, like it was, like if you want to draw attention to something, like if you're making a picture, you want like a point in the picture where you want people's eyes to be drawn to. You can do that very easily with a pre-rendered background, because you can have the player walk around and then it sort of scrolls up and then it's like, oh, what's that thing? You're getting closer to it. Then there you are, it's the new part of the level. And that's very cool. I like that. I think that, you know, because the reason I'm doing this mostly is because the remake has been announced and I wanted to experience the original before that came out. And I'm thinking the remake will probably not do this sort of pre-rendered background with still cameras, so it will feel a lot different. But I don't know whether that's a bad thing, but I do know that I like it this way. Another thing I like is that a lot of the pre-rendered backgrounds, or really all of them, are very detailed. Not completely you're not able to explore everything. There's usually a path, but everything looks very nice, and there's a lot of attention to detail, especially on the interiors of houses. Because a lot of houses, you go in them, there may be something to pick up, maybe somebody to talk to, but sometimes there's neither. It's just a house. You know, a guy may be there or he may not be there, and there may be nothing to interact with at all, but they still feel the need to put, like, you know, a tablecloth, a flower, a plate, things in the sink. You know, the bookshelf is not like copy-pasted from another interior. There's a different one. It's all unique, as far as I could see. I didn't. If they did copy-paste things, I didn't notice it. So they did a very good job of obfuscating, you know, any of that. It just felt like it was lovingly crafted, is how I put it. Lovingly crafted pre-rendered backgrounds. There are times though where it is a bit difficult to understand where you're supposed to go. There was this one point in what was it? What was it called? This wrecked camp. I just wrote wrecked camp. It's probably not called that. Where you have to go right down to the bottom of the screen and then beep, there. There's like a sign here. And then you gotta walk this way, and that's the only way to the next part of the screen and also to the next part of the game. If you walk out this way, you go out into the open world, and there's a big load of grass and there's a blockage. You can't go any further. You can walk around for a long time, and there's also a desert. You can't go in the desert. The only thing you're supposed to do is to go just there on that town, and it's not obvious that that's a place you can go. It doesn't even look like you can go over there. So I got stuck for a while. It wasn't too long, because I walked around, I'm like, well, I can't do anything. There must be something at the wrecked camp that I missed. So I went back and, you know, I talked to the people, and they mentioned like a new place, like the Shinra, what was it, the whatever you call it, the thing that goes from the place to the gold saucer. And they mentioned that, and I'm like, well, I didn't see that. And then I was walking around and I'm like, wait, can I go there? And I could. So sometimes there's not enough of a contextual clue. A lot of the times it's fairly obvious what you're supposed to do. But this time, and a couple other times, I just got stuck and I was sad for like 5 minutes. Now the overworld is lovely. It's very simple. There's not much on the map that can confuse you. There's open green, and then a town. And that's obviously where you're supposed to go next. It's not really like, oh, which way? There's never a which way, at least not at the beginning. It's got a very nice, like a little 3D effect to it as well. You go far away enough from the thing, it goes down round the Earth. The Earth is round. If you got the airship, you fly through the edge of the map and then come out the other side, and it just smoothly transitions to the ocean rolling back, and there's more islands, but it's the bottom of the map. I like that effect. It's a nice effect. It does look a bit blocky, but nothing about it looks wrong in the context of the game. It's all very nice. So yeah, traveling around on that world map is great. Alright, there's no more notes on aesthetic, but generally I'd just like to say I like it. I like PlayStation 1 graphics because I think that it's nice. It's it's the same reason people like 8-bit graphics or even Atari level graphics, that there's less information there, so your mind fills in the gaps. Within itself, it's very nicely made. It's all very artistically designed and put together well, and it all comes together in the end. That's what's important about a game's art, the aesthetic. It's gotta be good, it's gotta be nice, it's gonna be 10 out of 10, and it is. Part 3, I think. The combat gameplay, mechanics, and stuff. Stuff about the game design and that I like and noticed. So, the first thing I've written is about the level up system. At the very beginning of the game, I was leveling up by killing things, and it was sort of like, I never really noticed it. It just sort of happened. I killed things because they were in the way, and I was fine with fighting them. I never felt, like, oh, more enemies, ugh. Because the combat was fun. It felt cool to slash things, and the sound effects were very, very jagged, I guess, is a way you could describe it. You don't have to pay attention to your stats either. They sort of level up at a pace that makes sense with how much enemies you should be fighting to get to the next area. I never feel like I'm, under-leveled and have to grind. In fact, that was something I've heard, like, Final Fantasy VII is a grindy game. I heard it once. I mean, I didn't hear it a lot. I heard it from one guy. And I was thinking, I don't like grinding, but maybe if the combat's fun, I'll enjoy it anyway. But I wasn't grinding. The only time I needed to grind was right at the very end of the game, at the last dungeon, and the last boss. I needed to grind a couple of times. and it was very quick in that last dungeon because some of the enemies give so much experience. You can just grind very easily. So it's sort of like they expect you to grind in that one bit, and they give you the tools to do it fast because there's an enemy that you can kill. That you have to throw items at it, but it gives you a huge amount of experience. If you find it, you get it, you kill it, you got like almost like 2 level ups in one go. It's like it's designed for grinding, that whole area, and it's expected. So nothing ever feels like it's paced wrong. If you play the game smart, you will be able to get through it very easily. In fact, I didn't get a game over until... I game overed at the very first boss because I didn't know how to play. So I don't really count that as a game over. It's just sort of like, oh, whoops. I game overed on Hojo, which is at the very end of disc 2. There's 3 discs. I game overed on Sephiroth, the last boss, and on Emerald Weapon, which is an optional boss at the bottom of the sea that I had no idea would be that powerful. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I game overed 3 times in the whole game, and they were on very, very difficult bosses. I mean, Hojo, I was just unprepared. I didn't know what abilities he had. Basically, he has an ability in his second form, or is it his third? It's A form, the last one, where he does like a bunch of attacks, and the last hit puts you to sleep. And once you're asleep, obviously you can't do anything, and it takes a very long time. I don't know whether it's even possible to be woken up naturally, but what he does, because he does that attack, wham, 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 like one of them's poison, I think one of them's slow, and then the last one is sleep. And if you are hit when you're asleep, you wake up. So when he does the attack to you while you're asleep, he wakes you up, poisons you, slows you, and then puts you to sleep again. Basically, he put all my characters to sleep before I could unsleep any of them. So that means I couldn't do anything. I couldn't use any items, I couldn't use any healing spells. I just had to watch my guys die slowly. And that really frustrated me. So that was my first game over. Second game over, Sephiroth. Similarly, fucked myself over because I had like a really stupid thing equipped. I had on Cloud, I had a reflect ring, which reflects magic spells. What I didn't know was that it reflects healing spells as well as damaging ones. So whenever I did heal, it would bounce off of Cloud, and then instead of healing the person who cast it, it would heal the nearest enemy, which is the boss. So I couldn't heal Cloud, except with items. Cloud was my best healer. He had Cure 3, and it was paired with the other materia All, which means it does the thing to all of the things. So like, if I wanted to heal people, I would heal my whole party at once. But if I healed my whole party, it would also heal Cloud, which would then reflect from Cloud onto the boss. So I couldn't heal anybody, otherwise I would heal the boss. And that sort of ruined my life, and I died. Game over. The pacing is good, you never need to grind until the end, and even then, they sort of, through certain monsters, imply that you're supposed to have been grinding at this particular point anyway, so it's all deliberate and it's great, and I like that. There was this cool bit I noticed, where you're supposed to be... There's not actually a time constraint in this, but you're supposed to be... The point of the story at the point is like, you're coming to save the day because Weapon is coming... Oh no, Weapon has been shot. Weapon is the big stompy guy, and you're trying to stop Hojo, who's in the cannon, and he's about to fire it and shoot Sephiroth to give him a bunch of magic so that he can do something. And it's a implied time constraint. You don't actually have a timer, but it's like a rush. You're trying to get there, you're trying to go through all this stuff, you're trying to find the way. Everyone's panicking, rushing, going, we gotta go, we gotta do it. But you can chill. But what I love is that during this point, in this area, like underneath Midgar, sort of factory area, there are these, what are they? Oh yes, there are these enemies, which are like little turrets that come up from the ground, and they just look around, really slow. And what is interesting about them is that they slow you down by shooting like that. Wait, they don't do any damage to you. This is what the thing is. They shoot slow, I think, like slowness or something other, some other thing that just does a status effect to you, but they do no damage to you. And they shoot once, but they always shoot quite quickly in the game, in the battle. And there's usually 2 of them. But the thing that is interesting is that their animation of looking around, they just do this, and it's unskippable, and nobody can attack or do anything while they're doing this. They're just looking around, and then they go. And then you can attack. It's like time stops for them to do that, and it's like, that is great, because it's like an enemy that is hampering your progress by being annoying and slow, and you want to kill it really quick. So, what's the strategy? Use big area of effect spells, maybe even a summon, although it would take even longer. So use a big area of effect spell. You just gotta kill him. Kill him as fast as possible. Use magic, it doesn't matter. Use all your magic. And that's what the strategy is, to kill them as faster than they can shoot their stupid fucking thing. Because they're not really a threat, they're just annoying. And you do that, you do the big attacks with the big magics that cost a lot of mana, but they kill them fast, so you can, move on to the more important stuff. And they drop, very often, a turbo ether, which is an item that restores a lot of magic points. And I saw that and I'm like, that is very deliberate. I feel like that is like, the designers really thought about that particular enemy, the situation that you're in, and the item that you should be getting from them. Because you're using a lot of magic to kill them really fast, they reward you by giving you an ether so you can replenish your magic, very easily, and keep moving, It's great. It's just great design. I love it. Oh yes, when I was talking about fuck this golden wire of hope and the stupid platforming, this is the one point in the game where I was a bit annoyed, but it was only a small part, and it's just one bit. There's this bit where you have to jump on a timed jumping platform puzzle, and this game is not about platforming at all. Basically when you walk near to an edge and you're supposed to jump, you just walk and then he jumps for you onto the next platform and he keeps walking. There's no jump button, but there's one part you're climbing up this stuff, and there's this swinging thing, and you have to jump onto it by pressing the button at the correct time. And it says in the hint thing, it says to jump before it gets too close. What that means is you have to jump while it is the closest, which is stupid. I guess he might have meant jump before it gets too close to the other side. But that's they could have made that clear. I thought it meant jump before it gets too close to you, what you're supposed to do, because I kept doing this, falling. And even when it looked like it was right, when it was here, I jumped, So what you have to do, you have to wait till it gets here, jump, and then he's on it. I hate that bit, it's dumb, but just one little bit. Now there's lots of little other bits in this game. It's not just walking around and then combat. There's loads of different little bits, especially in the early Midgar place. There's this one bit in the Shinra Incorporated place where there's a stealth aspect where you have to, move when the guards is turning the right way around. When they're not looking, you go. And something I like about this is that once you're across, you have to stand there and you have to do the same thing for the other guys. There's 2 party members with you, and you have to beckon them by pressing the same button, or a button. And you have to beckon them at the same time. It's like do, get them over without being seen. If you do get seen, you have to do a battle, and that's a fair punishment. You don't get just thrown back to the beginning of whatever, because that would be annoying. It's just a waste of time. But if it's in a battle, you get to give a bit of money, you get a bit of experience, stuff you would have been doing anyway. Stuff you want to level up. And the combat's still fun. So having a battle is just sort of like, you're wasting time, but at the same time you're getting stuff for it, so it's good. I like that. Oh, and after that there's a whole thing with getting key cards. There are two big moments where it's like collecting items from NPCs and talking to NPCs in Midgar. There's one part where you have to get a dress, cologne, and I forget what else, but and a wig and stuff, and maybe shoes. You have to dress as a girl in order to get into this brothel, in order to confront this, Don character who has kidnapped one of your party members. You gotta save her. You gotta save her by being a girl and getting into bed with this creepy guy. People have mentioned that this is weird and strange, but I like it. It's funny. It's very funny, in fact. There's a lot of humor in that. You go in there and you can peek in some of the doors, and there's this one thing. What was it? It was like this guy. He was doing like a play or something, and there were people watching him, and he was like dressed as a king but with underpants, and you couldn't really see what was going on. I don't know. I kind of liked the ridiculousness of it. A lot of what I've noticed in this game is that it's very light-hearted and doesn't take itself seriously, especially at the beginning. There's a lot of humor, a lot of joking around. There's also lots of little mini-games in the game. There is this one motorbike chase thing, which is actually part of the beginning of the game, or the end of the beginning of the game, where you're getting out of Midgar on a motorbike. It just sort of comes out of nowhere, to me anyway. I had no idea this was coming, this sort of thing. You're going around, you're just on a motorbike, and you got your sword, and you're slashing at other motorbikers, and you got to protect the van with your guys in it. And it's cool, it's fun, and I really wanted to do that again. And in the arcade later, in the Gold Saucer, you can play that whole thing again. It's the same thing. And it's like, yeah, that is really a great way to bring back a cool little mini-game section of a game without it being, it's an in-game, in-world reason for you to be able to do that game thing again. I like it. Oh, actually, about the arcade, as soon as I got there and I saw that there was a save point, and you have to pay to save your game at the save point in the arcade in the Gold Saucer area, I was like, whoa, that's cool, that's really cool. It's annoying because I can't save until I win a bunch of mini-games, but it's really good at instantly making you understand where you are, what sort of place you are. They want to cheat you out of your money. It's like a casino. It's very luxurious on the outside, but I'm sure it's got some shady dealings in the backside. The games in the arcade, the fact that it's all very difficult, especially that roller coaster, that's not part of the arcade, but it's really difficult to shoot all those things. It's fun, but it's difficult and it's expensive to try again. It feels like an arcade. I don't want to be there. It's annoying. I'm like, ugh, I don't want to spend all my money. I want to get out of here, but I want to play it again. It's fun. It feels like a real arcade. I thought that was a good theming of them. Theming, What do you know? Other mini-games, Chocobo Racing. You can either bet on it, or you can ride in it. Betting on it was fun. I looked at the stats of the guys. This is interesting, because usually it's a lot of it's luck. And I guess it is, but I guess I got lucky. I chose the guy who had like a medium stamina, who wasn't sprinting in his little picture. There was little pictures of them, and this some of the chocobos were sprinting, and I'm like, he's gonna run out of stamina really quick, because that's I assume that's how they run. So I chose a medium runner who had a lot of stamina, but also a lot of sprint power, and I bet on him, and he won. Because by all the stats, I was looking at all of them, and I'm like, that guy's probably going to win. And he won. And it was like, whoa, I did it. I actually used my brain, and it's not, it didn't feel like it was totally unfair who won. Then I bet again, but I think I lost the second one, but that's usually how gambling works. Playing it though was difficult. I I couldn't really get the controls right, because obviously controller issues, but you can put it on auto mode, and after I did that, I pretty much won without doing anything. So there's that. It's fun. I didn't feel the need to do a lot of it. I will come back to it, maybe. Oh yes, there's the Fort Condor, which is another minigame, which is strategy tactics with little units that look like Star Fox 64 people. There's so much less polys, but they're good. They've got like, each one has a unique weakness and strength, and you just place them on this hill, and the enemies come in waves, and you just got to place them on there. Very, very slow at walking, so you got to place them strategically. You got to click on them to move them to place to place. It's very involved, but it's also very entertaining. I wouldn't do it too much. I did it like 3 times, but it was probably, probably some people would love it. But I liked it, but it was a bit long. It took a bit long. That is of course, I didn't realize until later that I could change the speed from normal to high. Once I did, it was a bit faster, but still, it would have taken a while. Okay, here's the thing. It doesn't take long to exhaust your possibilities, at least in the early game. But even in the late game, in fact, there's only so many places that you can go that make sense to go, and once you've gone to all of them, your path becomes clear. I never really got stuck at any point, because there was one point near the beginning where there's this marsh, and there's this snake, sort of like shadow, and if you walk into the marsh, the snake will inevitably catch up to you because it's faster than you, and it will find you and go and get you, and once you're attacked by it, it's like way too high level for you. That thing attacked me, I got scared and ran away after it nearly killed me. And I went back to the Chocobo guy, and I realized that he had mentioned that there was a snake in the marsh. You go into the marsh? I'm like, sure. I didn't really know that was the marsh, but obviously in hindsight, that is the marsh. It's the only thing that could be a marsh anywhere near here. And that's where the snake is. He mentions the snake, so like, okay, so that is where I've got to go. What do I do? And the guy says, you need a chocobo, here's how to catch one. So there you go. I didn't listen to the farmer the first time, and I just went into the marsh, and then I read it properly, and then I knew. So everything makes sense if you listen to the NPCs in the town. If you go to an NPC and you talk to everybody, they will tell you something about them where you gotta go next. They won't say, you gotta go here. They'll say, if you're looking for Sephiroth in the disc 1, they'll say, oh, I saw a guy in a leather jacket and a sword or long hair. I saw him go south. So you leave the town when you leave the town, and you go south, and then on the map, south is a little red dot with a place, and that's the new place you gotta go. And sometimes if there's a blockage there, or you gotta go round somehow, and the way round is like blocked. You go back to you go back to the town, and you talk to more people, and you realize that you've got to get this specific thing, so that you can get round to the bit where the guy with the Sephiroth went. And it's like, you talk to the people, you learn all the information, and there's not too many people to talk to, so it never feels like too much work to go into a town and talk to everybody and get all the information you can. It just feels like something you can just walk past and like talk to them really quick, because the text is quick. They don't say too much. And yeah. Now this is cool. When you take a party, you can have a party of 3, and you get more than 3 party members over the course of the journey, the adventure. You can only take 2 with you. You have to be with Cloud, and you can take 2 with you, and having only 2 means there's a lot of replay value to the game. Not just because for combat, but also walking around. There's like places and people that your party members will like come out of you, and then they'll react and talk And then you're like, oh, well, what if those other people were out there and I had different people in my party? Would they see different things? I think they would, because a lot of the time it's like very, you know, very much in character for whoever's saying it. It doesn't feel very generic. So it's like, yeah, I could see that person saying that. I wonder what the other person would have said, but it's too late now. That experience has happened. So even if it's a bit shallow, I do kind of like think, what if I had different party members when that happened? And I might even play the whole game again just to experience it differently. So that's something to think about. Now I should talk about materia, because that's like a big part of the game. It's basically little magical balls, little gemstones that you attach to your equipment and your weapon. I don't know whether attaching it to your weapon or equipment, like whether that differs. It's basically just equipping materia, and they have, basically that's how you cast magic. So you get a fire materia, you can cast the fire spell, which I think is an elegant way of doing it. Instead of having, you know, to choose, who do I want to be the guy who can heal or cast this particular spell? Well, it doesn't matter, you can just give them the spell item and equip it to them, and then they can just do it. Which I think, I really like that as a game mechanic. And there's certain materia that are summon abilities, and these are very, very powerful. Well, very powerful. They're pretty powerful, and they're summon abilities. You summon a thing, and even the very earliest ones you can get are very long. They have cutscenes. They're very long cutscenes compared to like a normal spell where you just go and it's like that's it. The summon abilities are very long cutscenes, and I understand why. It's because they're a big area of effect spell with high damage, and the penalty for having that much power is you have to wait a bit. Also, the mana takes a lot of mana, which I think is a fair trade. Something I really appreciate is each character has a weapon type that is unique to them. So Cloud has swords, Barrett has gun things on his arm, Tifa has fist things like boxing gloves, punch knuckles. But one thing that does do is it makes it very obvious when there's a character that you haven't collected. And there are two characters in the game that are secret characters. Well, they are secret. They're never alluded to in the game. Well, one is. The other one, you have to happen upon. There's no mention of her at all. You have to just happen to find her in the woods. And then after that, you have to do the proper things after you beat her to get her to join your party. And if you do it wrong, she runs away, and you have to try and find her again. They're secret characters, but it's obvious that there are secret characters in the game when you start seeing weapons in the store that none of your people can use. And you're like, why is there guns? You know, I can't give the guns to anyone. Why are there guns all in these stores? And another thing that sort of clues me in, I don't know whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. It didn't really annoy me, but I can see why it might feel like a bad thing to some people, is that I met a new character, and I didn't know, you know, it just seemed like a guy. And immediately it asked me to fill in his name, so it's like, oh, okay, that guy is going to be in my party quite soon. Because I'm naming him. When you name a character, he's part of your party. And I don't know whether that is like too much of a spoiler, or whether it's just sort of like, is it better that I wouldn't have seen it coming that he became my party member? I don't know. I don't know whether that's a good or a bad thing, but it's something to consider when giving a score out of 10 for GameSpot. Alright, there's a moment where Eris dies, and she dies, and it's sad. I'm gonna save that for the story. But there is a moment while, you know, before she gets killed, where Cloud, I mean, through the whole game he's been suffering with like, brain things, memories of the past and the future, not really the future, but the past, and he collapses and he's like, I'm so troubled. Oh no. And he gets up to Eris, who's been like missing, and he's like, oh, I've got to save her. But then you walk up to her, and you can't do anything. You just walk around. So you think, okay, I'll press OK to talk to her. But pressing OK initiates him getting his sword out. He's like, and then you're like, I can't do anything now. Back? No. X out of it. X out of it. Press OK again. Oh, he's got his sword more. And that's the only thing you can do. You can only take your sword out, bit by bit, until he's about to stab her. And the point of that is like to show that Cloud is literally fighting for control of himself. He's not just an asshole who wants to kill her. It really gets you like in with his like situation. You understand it more because you're the guy who's nearly killing her, and you're like, no, I don't want to do it. You're thinking the same thing he's thinking, and I don't know. I think there's a few moments like that that are cool, where you're trying to, you know, Cloud is moving against his will, i.e. your will, the player. You're doing stuff, but it's not doing what you want. It's like, it's a great way of like showing, like expressing that level of, that feeling of like, I'm out of control. Oh no, he's controlling me like a puppet master. So that was good. I like that. Alright, snow. Yes, there was a snow bit, there was a snowboarding bit. It was just kind of funny. It's sort of like, you gotta go down the mountain. There's this one bit, which I actually think is annoying to the point of annoying. You're in this big, white, snowy place, and you've got to leave markers on the ground so that you don't get lost. So you leave a marker, you walk a bit, and then suddenly the wind, you know, the wind changes and you lose your sense of direction, but the marker's there so you know where you were going from. So you're like, okay, I'll keep going. But if you go in a straight line, you reach the end of the map, and then you leave it, but there's no indication that that's the end of the map. Everything is white, and then at just some arbitrary point, that's the edge. And once you go through the edge, you're like back at the beginning. And you're like, oh, I got lost. Which is annoying to me because it's like, you can tell where you're going by leaving the markers. But how the hell are you supposed to know which direction to go in this big area without accidentally going off the edge? Because there's no indication where the edge is. You have to just feel around and then, oh, you fucked up. You went too high. Like, well, I didn't see anything. You have to go across and then up a bit, I think. I think that's how you go. But if you go all the way across, you lose. If you go if you don't go across enough and then go up or down, you lose. And it's just, it's frustratingly difficult. Because there's not really anything you can do. You're just feeling around in this place and there's no way to tell when you're about to fail. And then there's a mountain climbing bit. So there's lots of little bits of gameplay that's different from just walking around. Which I like, because this is a snowy area and it's not as easy as just trudging along a big piece of snow. You know, you've got to mountain climb. For mountain climbing, you've got to choose the right path, and then you've got to stop on a ledge and jog to keep your body temperature up, otherwise you'll freeze to death. Which is a nice touch. You know, you just press the button a lot of times, and you'll be fine. But it's just little bits like that, changing up the gameplay from just walking to doing something else that makes sense in the situation. Is good. They don't let it get boring. That's the one main thing, I think, to take away from all this gameplay talk. They never let it get boring. The combat, the walking around, and then the different types of walking around, and then the mini-games, it's all nicely spaced out so that you're never doing too much of one thing before you're doing something different. And they do a very good job of keeping me entertained throughout the whole thing. I never felt bored. It's smooth experience. It just rolls from one thing to the other like a bagel on a smooth hill. And it's good. It's a good designed game. So if you were wondering, there's my thoughts on that. And that's part 3. Next is part 4. the story and the characters and the interactions of the characters. The characters, since they're very low poly in the talky scenes, they've got the walkabout models I mentioned. The fighting models, they're just sort of for fighting, and the walk-around models are for everything else. So those models are very low poly, and they don't really have a face. They have like a drawn-on eyes that blink occasionally, and a mouth, and the mouth doesn't move. So in order to, you know, exclaim things like emotions, they've got to show emotions, they have to resort to body language instead of, you know, voice acting or, you know, expressions. And what this creates is a lot of physical humor, physical comedy, like slapstick, and a lot of like crazy movements and jumping around, and it's all very animated, and people do things that they would never really do if they were a person, you know, jumping up and then going, "Whoa, stop!" You know, usually you just go, "Stop!" Whoa. But with this, they would jump up and you know, shake around, and I don't know. It's good. I like the fact that they use the body language, and they use it well. You know, they don't. It always, like, there's certain instances where the body language really tells the whole story of the character's personality without them having to say anything. Sephiroth is a good example. There's a point where he is in the flashback. He's sort of asked to be in a picture, and the body language, he just sort of like looks back, and then sort of there's a little pause, and then he walks over and he's like, "Yeah, okay." And he just sort of stands there, like, "I'm doing my job, whatever. You can have your picture, dude." Like, it sort of shows that while he's cool and badass and all that shit, he's not like a pretentious faggot. He'll be in a picture from some fan or whatever it was, some journalist, because, you know, what's the harm? You know, he doesn't like saying, "Huh, I don't have time for your damn pictures, boy. I'm cool." He's not like that. And it's all through that little moment there that I realised that's what his character is. Yeah, I made a whole bunch of notes about how Aeris is really cute and kind, and it's really funny and cute, and the whole bit with the dress, getting Cloud, and she was really into it as well. I like that she was like really into getting Cloud into a dress, and Cloud was sort of like, because he kind of liked her immediately, you know, he kind of liked Aeris, he's sort of like, "Okay, I'll go along with it because you're enjoying it." But they never say any of that. I don't think it's kind of conveyed through body language, but mostly through the fact that Cloud is doing this at all, and Aeris is sort of like giggling a lot and saying, "Hoo, you look so pretty." So that was nice. Oh, and the bit where Don Corneo is being like, you know, they've cornered him. It's like, "I'm not actually a girl. What do you do? Who are you, asshole?" And, you know, Tifa and Aeris come in, and they, you know, one by one they put their foot on the bed, and they're sort of standing there like this, and they're like, "You gotta tell us or we're gonna fucking rip it off." You know, they're talking about his dick. They're gonna rip his dick off, they're gonna stab him, they're gonna punch it. And I was just like, that's cool that they would do a little scene like that, a little badass little "I'm gonna rip your dick off" scene. Yeah, the game's writing is superb. That's one of the notes I put there. The game's writing, the dialogue that comes through is very realistic, very natural, and it doesn't feel like there's an exposition dump at any point. It feels like everybody would say the things they say, and you can figure out the rest of the stuff, the story, through context clues and the location and stuff like that. So they don't need to do that much exposition, but they do enough, and it makes sense when you hear it, why they said it to you and that you heard it. It's good writing. I like the writing in this. Oh yeah, there was a cool bit when they were climbing. It was Tifa, Barrett, and Cloud. They were climbing the stairs to sneak into the Shinra building, and it was a funny little character moment because the stairs just keep going. You know, you go up a flight and it's like, okay, another one, it's exactly the same. Another one, it's exactly the same. You're like, oh, we should have barged in the front door. I don't know whether you even could. That was an option that they said. but I decided to sneak in. So I went up the stairs and I'm like, oh god, this is going to take a long time. But then they started talking. They started like having little words with each other. Like Barrett would like stop halfway through and start panting and wheezing like, oh god, how much longer does it go? So it's like a cutscene, but I'm constantly in control of the character. I mean, I could just stop Cloud, walk back down if I really wanted. I didn't, but you know, you're in control of Cloud the whole time, and them two are just like arguing and bickering about how fucking long it is, and they're going up, and then at some point Tifa calls Barrett a retard, and I thought that was great. Just stop being a retard and climb. I think that's what she said. Once they started talking, I realised it wasn't just a pointlessly long, boring segment for no reason. It was a really long staircase because they wanted that moment of character building, character interaction. It was good. There's this cute bit on the gold saucer where you go on a thing and you see the sights, and you can choose to go with any party member. And I didn't manage to do it with everyone. I kind of wanted to, but what's cool about this is you can like act in it's not just you looking at the sights every time. You can act in the little car by moving the left joystick. You can make Cloud look left, right, up and down, or you know, like if you want him to be like I'm not even enjoying myself at all, you just make him stare at the floor the whole time, and then the other person is looking out the window. And I thought that's cool. That's like an option that you do. It doesn't really add anything. It's just sort of like if you want to be a dumbass and stare at the ceiling instead of the sights the whole time, you can. The bit where Tifa takes Cloud on a date, like against his will, it was really cute. You know, there's a bit where they're on the stage and they're doing all that, like you have to pretend to act, but you can decide to be an asshole and not be a smart ass with your replies. And I was, and then Tifa got really angry and beat everyone up, and I thought that was funny. At this point I'm just saying things that I remember from the story that I like. I mean, the overall story I think is a little... it's good. There's nothing like incredible about it, but that's because it's like an oldish game and things have, you know, been done of, like, you're inspired from it since, including Final Fantasy games, I'm sure. And the story basically is you're in Midgar and you're a part of a terrorist organization to free the planet from these terrible machines that are drilling for materia, for magic, for... what's it called? Is it called materia or is it called something? The energy, Mako, that's what it's called. They're drilling for Mako in this big steampunk city, and you're part of a terrorist organization that is trying to destroy Midgar's, you know, evil ways, and you blow shit up. But then you meet Aeris, and your Cloud meets Aeris, and she's like, something about promised land, and then there's people after Aeris, and Cloud likes, you know, he likes her, so he wants to protect her, and they sort of join up in group. And then there's Sephiroth, who's also mentioned a lot in the early parts, and it's like he was a member of... I can't go through the whole story, but the general gist is Sephiroth wants to destroy the world, you learn at some point. He wants to use a spell called Meteor to come down and destroy the world because he's evil. Other reasons, but basically because he's evil. And Cloud wants to stop him. Basically, that's it. You want to stop Sephiroth. So the whole game you're basically chasing after him, trying to find him so that you can fight him. I'm trying to explain the story. It's difficult because it's a big game. It's a lot of stuff happens, and but I like it. I think it's got just enough twisty turns, and the gameplay and everything makes you invested. Like, the characters are good. I like the way they wrote the characters. I like the way they wrote the dialogue. The story is written and the game is paced in such a way that everything flows nicely from one thing to the other. It's all great, top notch. So that's the basic story. There's also little mini stories, all the backstories, not all the backstories, but backstories of most of the characters are explained. There's little bits where, you know, there's a bit where the dog cat guy, people say he's a dog. I see him as like more like a saber-toothed cat with a mohawk. You know, the red one, red X 313, red 13, I don't know. Nanaki. By the way, I like him. He's a cool character, cool guy. There's this really cute bit actually, where the what's it called? The beach area, the beach town, Costa Mama Luigi. Not Costa Rica. That's an actual place. Anyway, there's a bit where if he's not in your party, he'll be out by the shops and stuff in the shade, and he'll be playing football with these little kids. They'll kick the ball and he'll just bat it back with his tail. And then you go talk to him and said, "It may look like I'm playing football, playing with this ball, but I'm not. I'm just so happen to be whacking it back with my tail, just doing it on its own." I'm like, "Oh, you don't want to admit you're having fun with these kids. You're a cutie. You're a cutie pie. Such a cutie bitch." I don't know where I'm going with this. I find it difficult to talk about characters because I like them so much. They're all great. Barrett's great. You know, he gets very big old temper, but he's a softie. You know, Nanaki's similar. Vincent doesn't really get much character unless I missed something. He's just sort of like brooding a lot of the time. Yuffie is a brat, but she's got a heart of diamond. No, she doesn't. She's a brat, but she's like cute and innocent because she's a kid. So you excuse it. You're like, "Ugh, come on then, you idiot." Cloud is a cool guy, but he's a tragic past. Bit of an emo, but overall has a sense of humor and is like, you know, if all that shit happened to anybody else, I could understand why he'd be like traumatized a lot of the time. But he's a cool guy. He's strong-willed and shit, but also a bit of a dork, a lot of a dork. Sid I like because he's an asshole, but you can tell again that he has a heart of gold. Like he really cares for what's her face, his that scientist girl, that engineer girl. Like he calls her like names and treats her like shit, but he gave up his dream to fly the rocket because she was in the engine room and she shouldn't have been when he was trying to take off, and he cancelled the whole thing and the rocket like broke, and it's like he gave up his dream to save her life, and I think that's okay that he can insult her a lot, because, you know, fuck, you know, poor guy. But at the same time, he's a great leader and very loud and cool. And dude, man, the game's great. I love the characters and the story. 12. I don't know. What am I even doing this video for? Oh, it's a good reason to play GRPJ. Yeah, so I think I mentioned this before, but every NPC has something to say, and sometimes, or pretty much always, it's useful. Well, not always useful, but like, it's either useful or it adds to the lore and the backstory of the area or the world as a whole. So, that's good. And it's not just stuff like, "I think there are monsters in that dungeon over there." You know, they talk like they're people who have things that on their mind and have things that occupy their lives, other than just, "I live in this plaza, I don't move, I talk about the fucking that guy." You know, I mean, there are a few people like that, that's unavoidable, but most of them have some sort of a small character or a personality that comes through a little bit. You know, it's the little things, it's not a lot of that, but it's enough to make it feel like these are people. And when they get killed in the minis, then I'm sad about it. Now, there's a flashback where Sephiroth is shown to be not a bad guy yet, and Cloud is there, and there's points in the story. There's a point in here where there's a battle sequence and there's a giant snake thing, and the giant snake kills Cloud instantly, but then Sephiroth revives Cloud and then one-shots the thing, doing like, I don't know, I think it's like 9999 damage, I can't remember, but it's badass. Killed him. Amazing. 10 bada. And it sort of it shows, because it's like an actual battle sequence, like you could click stuff if you had the ability to, but you die instantly. It's like it shows how powerful Sephiroth is, and the fact that he was powerful then, so much more than you. And you're like, oh god, I'm going after this guy? This must be like a really powerful boss. And there's points like that in the story, other points. Not literally a battle sequence, but points where you get to experience a part of the story through a gameplay mechanic rather than dialogue or a cutscene. Like I mentioned earlier, there was a point where Cloud, if you pressed OK, he would get his sword and he would be ready to kill Aeris, and that's to show he was fighting for control. And there are a few other different points like that where it's like the gameplay mechanic is telling the story instead of like just showing you have to do something, and what you're doing is, you know, showing you things. I mean, I can't think of any other examples, but they're there, and they're prominent enough that I felt the need to make a point about it, so that's my excuse for not having an actual example. So the story is convoluted, I can't really go into it, and the camera's running out of battery. So I'll just say it flows well. It goes from one thing to the other. It never feels too complicated. There was a couple of points where I was like, okay, what was the real truth? Was Cloud really a clone, or was he not a clone? Or when did he become a clone? Why was he controllable? Why? How? What? Wow. I still don't know. I'll have to look at the wiki. I think that's enough about the story. I mean, what else can I say? Lots of things, but I'm not going to. So, what's the last part? The last part is just cool shit, I guess. You know what, I can't really talk about cool shit in a way that makes sense. Oh, you know what I can talk about? The ending cutscene and the aftermath. What was that about? I mean, I understand what it's about. 500 years later, there's like a cat thing, a saber-toothed motherfucker, like Nanaki. I think it might have been Nanaki, but I don't know, because it's like 500 years, maybe he's dead. I don't know how long those things live. And with two little babies. First of all, who did he fuck? I don't remember them talking about any other of his kind. I thought he was the last one. But second of all, 500 years later, they're looking at the remnants of Midgar, and it's all overgrown, and the Earth has been taken back from the evil people mining. What about closure on everyone else? Is that all we get? Is that all there is for, like, after... Like, I kind of wanted an epilogue. I wanted to see what happened to Cloud and Tifa and Barret and Vincent even. You know, what happens to all those people? What's the aftermath? I suppose there might be in like one of the other versions of Final Fantasy VII that's out already, or one of the movies or something, that they talk about that. And if they do, I guess I'll go look, because I'm interested. I want to see an epilogue. I like epilogues. Yeah. The rest of the notes I have are just sort of like little things I notice, like, oh, that's interesting. Like, I find it mildly amusing that I decided to get Vincent just as all this incredible shit was going down. Yeah, I got Vincent as soon as Aeris was going to die, and he was with me, and he saw her die, and he's like, I didn't even know her. You know, that's not really something I can discuss. It's just a thing I remember. You know what I'll do? I will post my notes in the description, so that if you really want to see everything I've written, it's not that much, It's like, was it 14 pages of little things? I've color coded it, I won't give you the key, you can figure that out. Just read it if you want. And that'll be there to go with this video. And that's me GRPJing about Final Fantasy VII. Was it a good reason? Yes, because I've played it now and I enjoyed myself. And maybe you enjoyed this video, as long as I, you know, cut out 90% of all this rambling. What I want to do is I want to be making them like one of these, then a Hippocrit, then maybe another one of these if I have time. It's a good reason to play a JRPG. Yeah, so thanks for watching.